Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Lazara.
Here.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Here.
Alderman E. Wesley.
Here.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Winger.
Here.
Alderman Woods.
Here.
Mayor Police.
Here, I declare quorum present. Please stand, join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, I need a motion to approve the City Council meeting minutes of January 16, 2014.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Any questions or corrections? Eugene, Alderman Wesley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do any citizens wish to be heard on matters not listed on the agenda? Okay, you could just step up to the microphone, Mr. Stoll. It's not on the agenda. And could you give your record for the clerk, just for the record?
My name
Your
is,
address, I'm sorry.
my name is Patricia Stoll. Do I need to adjust this thing?
Whatever you feel
Okay.
comfortable.
My name is Patricia Stoll. The address is 145 South Cedar, Wooddale. I have received a phone call from ComEd today stating that the engineers from ComEd would like to come out and meet with what sounds like an invitation-only closed meeting, meaning Mr. Murmies, myself, Melissa Stoll, and I guess members of the council, to explain the situation and the projections for the planned power outage, which we've all been dealing with in the last last month. I responded to the call with a suggestion that this be a visit by the engineers at a public meeting, not a closed meeting, invitation only, but that they address the community of, or the neighborhoods. Approximately 70 households is the latest figure that would be affected by this power outage, which they have been trying to set up in the last month. And I'm suggesting that the city council do something about arranging this as part of having them come out. There has been a precedence set for this kind of thing, and they can address the issues of the public at large with regard to the power outages. That's simply what I'm asking. So,
Mr. Murmas, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, what Ms. Stoll is referring to as ComEd is, from what they're telling me, trying to do some preventative maintenance work, which is going to include a power outage for some residents in Area 1. Amazingly enough, they originally scheduled the outage for during the polar vortex. They subsequently canceled that outage. I spoke to them shortly thereafter, and they said that they weren't going to do it again until it got warm. And then, amazingly enough, the residents got another letter, I think, or a phone call saying that it's been rescheduled for later this month. So then I heard about that. Then I called them again, and now they're saying that the outage isn't until at least March 1st. And they did ask if we wanted to have a meeting explaining the situation over there. They made it seem as though it wasn't public type meeting. It was going to be more of a one-on-one or a neighborhood type meeting.
right. So I'm asking that it be set up if it's going to happen at all, that they come out and do a public meeting in which all the residents affected by it have an opportunity to ask questions and hear from them. So that's my request.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
the manager will work that out. Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Jeff, can I ask you a question on it? What are they actually doing over there? Are they
Go ahead, Mr.
replacing power
Murmans.
lines, or, because,
Mr. Murmans.
They haven't given me the exact details. They're proposing they give the details at this meeting with the residents that it's affected. I don't have the details. I asked, they didn't give it to me yet. It's preventative maintenance, but they do that in other areas of town, and there are outages from time to time, I believe, but I've never seen it with the polar vortex and whatnot.
well, it'd be nice if they share that with us, what they actually gonna do over there before they do that.
Okay. Thank you. We do have another gentleman, John Philipchuk, would like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council.
Excuse me 1 second. I asked the attorney about this. Pat, you want to give a comment?
Yeah, it's an item that is on the agenda. He, rather than address it at the time that the council is addressing it, the appropriate location on the agenda is under public comment.
Right. I asked. I'm sorry. Continue.
Thank you. My name is John Philipchuk. I'm an attorney with offices at 111 East Jefferson Avenue in Naperville, Illinois. I'm here this evening on behalf of Joseph Tulo and his mother, Sylvia Tulo. They own the property at 365 East Irving Park Road. I sent a letter. I hope that council members were able to take a look at that. We have a unique situation here as a result of the 2011 Unified Development Ordinance that Mr. Tulo and his mom find themselves in, with trying to rent some of the space in the back of this building that was built in 1963. It's functionally obsolete. He was able to do some work in it and put the Rosario's Jewelers up front, but that two-thirds of the building, that back portion, about 3,000 square feet, doesn't lend itself to retail. The economics of the day say that to try to put the whole property into a retail use just doesn't make sense. There's not enough parking to accommodate that. I understand what the city was trying to do as part of redoing the zoning ordinance, but you've got a unique situation with a given piece of property here with this particular building on it that I hope you would take a look at. I unfortunately got involved in this late, and part of my request in my letter and this evening would be if you'd see to it if we could have some more time to discuss it with you, because I think what you need to understand is that under the special use, if you look at that back building, what has been somewhat successful for that space because of its configuration and the access only off the alley is for storage or warehousing, if you will. Warehousing, as you know, is a special use under your ordinance. And the thing that is troublesome is that whether you like the user that's in there now, that he'd like to be able to keep that tenant, it's that your special use provisions expire 60 days after a parcel becomes vacant or abandoned. So if you think of it, if he can't turn around and get another tenant in 60 days, I know you're probably tired of seeing him, but he's got to come back again, reapply for a special use, spend $550, go through the process to see if he can get it approved. It takes several months. All that time, the property's not rented. And then he either finds out if he can keep the tenant or he can't keep the tenant. If he gets a tenant, you know how the world is today. He might get a tenant that'll last 3 months. Hopefully it's 2 or 3 years. But if that tenant goes out and he can't find another tenant to put in there within the 60 days, as I said, he's got to go back and start the process again. I think we need to have a meaningful discussion about maybe tweaking the ordinance to give a property owner a little more time when it goes vacant before you tell them, oh, sorry, you got to come back again and get another special use. So I think that's the situation you find yourself in here, and I'm hoping that the council will think about that and see if we can figure out a way to maybe make that a little more palatable so that property owners like the Tulos would be able to get some economic benefit out of the building and then move forward with it and not be penalized if they can't keep a tenant and it takes a while to find a new tenant. So that's the quandary that I wanted to bring to council's attention. And like I say, if you find it, that you feel we could sit and talk about it, and help keep the gentleman that's interested now. I understand we got in there, we got on the wrong side of the law here, but we found out that we got to do it a different way, and that's what Mr. Till has been attempting to do. So, but I'd like to see if we could fix what we've got as long as we have what we think is a good tenant, because it's not a major user that's in there, daily kind of thing. But if not, well then, I still think we got an issue we got to deal with, and we got to find a way to help property owners like this keep these buildings rented. Okay, that's my request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the council? Okay, I do have one written communique. Honor Flight Chicago for veteran application. Honor Flight recognizes American War veterans, and usually they accept only applications for World War II veterans only, but now they are accepting applications for Korean and Vietnam War veterans. When they no longer have requests from World War II veterans, then they'll begin flying Korean and Vietnam veterans. The trips depart from Chicago Midway, and further information, 773-227-8387, or go online, honorflightchicago.org. We could probably put this on the website, Jeff. And that's Honor Flight Chicago. Pass that along. That's it on the written communiques. Mayor's report. Before we start with Section A, I want to speak about ONCC, the O'Hare Noise Commission. Village of Norwich is doing a petition that goes asking for sound insulation that goes outside of the scope of their contour. So I'm asking the council if we wish to do the same and partner with Norwich. We have a sheet here, that's what they use as a petition, that we can send out in our water bill, and they're sending me some other information on this as well. The other thing is, we've also reached out to Congresswoman Tammy Duckworth and see if her staff could meet with the other congressmen surrounding the airport and see what we can get done, and maybe arrange a meeting with the FAA. They did send me a number of somebody, FAA here in Chicago, but first, we want to get a couple of the other mayors on, maybe get Bensonville on as well, and Itasca, unless the council disagrees. Anybody have any issue with that petition going out in the water bill? Everybody good? Alderman Woods.
Is that gonna go, I mean, that's under Norwich's name, or are we gonna do one that?
It's already drawn up. Jeff made a mock-up just in case anybody wanted to see one tonight. I think you have it, or? Okay, Wendy has it.
Right, I can look at it tomorrow. Just wanted to make sure,
It's-
okay. Otherwise, it'd be confusing if they got.
Yeah,
the
no,
Norwich.
it'll say, it'll have our emblem. It has, I've seen it, it has our emblem in City of Wooddale, and
All right, thank you.
all the agencies.
My question is that, so everyone's going to get that, and then it's going to be mailed back to the city, or how are we working this?
Well,
I mean, I believe in Norwich,
they're,
they out there knocking
They-
on the doors.
they tried, I spoke to the mayor's secretary. Me and the mayor have been missing each other. They tried with the petition, but that wasn't working out so well. I know there's a couple people in a couple buildings that I might be willing to do, in the towers, might be willing to circulate. But we haven't figured all that out yet. They just told me they weren't getting the response because they're knocking on doors, people aren't home, so they're putting it on the website, they're putting the mailer out there, a couple different
Okay,
items. Go ahead, follow
So
up.
shouldn't we figure out how we're going to handle these petitions? I mean, if we're going to
Well-
put them in the water bill, one person's going to sign it, and then we're going to
Well-
mail it back? I mean,
Well, we have, we just sent out our water bills. The next one's coming out in, 2-3 weeks? So we'll have to figure out the logistics before we put it in the water bill.
okay.
Alderman Jacob, you were next.
Is that going to all the residents in Wooddale?
Well, everybody outside the contour, I would imagine, because those that are in the contour, they're already getting the sound
Okay, so
insulation.
most of the people in Ward 4 wouldn't get it, just outside of Ward 4.
Well, there's some in Ward 4 that, I believe some are missed.
There
right?
are some that's.
Right, there are some that are missed that are, The house across the street is getting it, but they're not.
Okay, so they're
I
gonna
don't, I
get
don't
the
know
petition
exactly
too
where
then.
those lines are. Maybe Mr. Forrest might have that, but honestly, this just came up, so,
But, I mean, those people are gonna get the petition too as well.
right, right.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, thank you.
Alderman Woods, you were next before I go to Alderman.
Yeah, is there a time frame that we're looking? Is there, that this has to be
Well,
turned
that's
in, or
why, that's
some
why I want to talk to the
criteria we're
mayor of
trying-
Norwich. Want to make sure we're together. I told him if we partner up, and I haven't called the mayor of Bensonville yet.
Okay.
See if, I would imagine they would probably want to do the same thing, because I know they're having the same issues.
Yeah, if you could just keep me in the loop, I'll walk, and as long as
Okay.
it's not the,
Polar
is it?
vortex. Alderman Winger, you were next.
And then certain high-rises in Wooddale may get missed as well that are on group water bills, that it's not going directly to the resident. So-
Right,
so
well,
we
we've
have to
gotten
figure
complaints
out-
all the way out to the west end of town, so anybody who's not in the contour will be sent one. But if somebody's not on the water bill, then we'll have to
figure out.
check that out. Okay, so everywhere, we'll work it out. Something for you to work on, okay. Next, LTM, the Heroin Awareness and Support Foundation. I don't know, Chief, did you want to say something on that before you make a motion or anything? No? Go ahead.
Sure, I'd be happy to. As council's aware and the people at home, we've presented 3 heroin awareness events over the last month and a half. We've reached about, I know 1,500 Fenton High School students and also about 300 residents between Bensonville and Wooddale to get the message out about the heroin problem that we're having in the greater Chicagoland area. And as you saw in the news last weekend, it's really all over the country. 2 of those groups that helped us with our presentations, one was the LTM Foundation. They are now a fully nonprofit and recognized by the IRS as a nonprofit agency to promote heroin awareness in our area. And our speaker was Nick Gore. Nick is currently in the application process and has a reservation number with the state as a non-for-profit. He also runs his own foundation that he started called Sack Lunch Sunday. Part of what they do is they make sack lunches and they deliver those to homeless people, and they've been doing some work for the shelters. So there was some discussion, I know especially at the last event, with some of the elected officials, Alderman Wesley and Alderman Winger, and I know you brought it up last week, to look for both of these people. They've never asked for any money from us, any financial donations, but certainly if council was willing to make a donation to both groups, I know it would go to good use, and we'll likely be using them again for some other events, either in Wooddale or Bensonville or with the DuPage Chiefs Association. I just got an inquiry today from a parent group, Padres Unidos in town, that are looking for some more information. So the word is getting out, and certainly we would be using them again. So I provided a memo just to overline to the council. So.
All right, thank you, Chief. Alderman Wesley, you had your hand up.
And Mr. Mayor, I agree with this. They have done tremendous job in getting the people aware of it. So I would attain a motion to approve $1,000 for the organization, LTM, and then I would also make a motion to allow $1,000 for the lunchbox for Nick, for his organizations for lunchbox, and they are all taxing.
Second.
You got that, Shirley? Any question on that? Roll call.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Lazara?
Yes.
Pardon me, Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes,
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
All right, that passes. And Chief, they're also going to go, are they going to be going to the other 2 high schools? I know they went to Fenton already, but we do have kids that go to Addison Trail and
Yes,
Lake
Addison
Park.
Trail was out at the last presentation. They're looking to bring something to their school, so we're certainly going to help them wherever possible. Crystal Lake reached out to me this week looking for some information, so thanks again for your support of this, and I appreciate it. I'll be, like I said, they didn't solicit this. I'll be excited to make the call to them, and they'll be very appreciative, and it'll go to good use, so, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my report. Mr. Murmas, City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 items. First item, Prairie Fest for 2014. For the past 2 years now, the city council has decided to host a resident appreciation night, and typically staff brings the request before the council in the wintertime for the upcoming fest to see if the council once again would like to host the resident appreciation night. The resident appreciation night results in free food vouchers for Wooddale residents with proof of residency, and that's usually on the Thursday night opening of the fest in conjunction with the discounted carnival rides for all Wooddale residents as well. If you have questions on cost of the program or any other questions, I could answer them.
So, we continue?
I'll make a motion to continue then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's easy.
The one other item, a little bit more difficult, you may remember at our December 3rd Elgin O'Hare Council workshop session, the idea was talked about that we know that the tollway is going to send us an IGA. We're not quite sure when they're going to send us an IGA. After that, we found out that they're going to send the IGA sometime in the February-ish time range. Once we do get the IGA, it's probably going to take some time to agree on the terms of the IGA. And the tollway, of course, is going to want to start getting into some of the city's right-of-way, some of their land to do some initial work, most likely before the IGA is completed. So today, the tollway asked if we could send them a letter saying that we'd be open to doing that. I know in the past the council said that they would be open to doing that, but it's not good enough for the tollway anymore to just verbally tell them we're going to do that. They'd like something in writing saying that we would grant them access onto our right-of-way before the IGA is completed. But per our request, we wanted estimates of how much, or hard numbers on how much the actual right-of-ways are going to cost, and assurances that we get those costs and any other guidelines we'd want to implement. So they're asking for a letter from us. I just found this out today. So they're proposing that they'll draft the language, and then they'll send it to us and get our input, and then they'd like it back to them. So that's what I just found out today.
Alderman Lazar?
Jeff, I have no problem with doing that, except, here we are again with the tollway. We're picking out things, we're buying things, we're signing papers without knowing how much anything costs. Do they really want us to sign that over without knowing what the cost is?
Mr. Murmas?
No, they're not doing that yet. They're not asking us that. They're just asking us if we would be up for letting them on the property before the IGA is complete. But they would still give us the actual hard numbers before they get on the property.
All right, well, at this point, yeah, I've got to see the hard numbers first before I would say anything.
Mr. Murmas?
You're not gonna have the hard numbers now. They just want a letter saying that the city would be open to doing this.
Wow, okay.
Follow it? Otherwise, I'll go to Alderman Eugene Wesley.
So, let me make sure I get this, so they want to come on our property to look at the property and see what its value at, or, I'm just totally lost when you say they want to come on our property and then we won't know the hard numbers. I'm a little confused.
Mr. Murmas?
No, what they're saying is when they give us the intergovernmental agreement in February, there's no way we're gonna have it signed with them laying out all the details for the IGA before they need to start doing things on the city's right-of-way. That's what they're saying. So they want us to say, hey, we know we're not gonna finish the IGA. We're okay with you coming on the city right-of-way, but we wanna know how much we're eventually gonna get in the IGA.
So that means
Go ahead, follow.
that means to start digging on our right of way?
Potentially starting to do work on our right-of-way before the IGA is complete.
Well, I have a legal issue on that then.
Mr. Bond, you want to comment to that?
Yeah, obviously, most of what they're doing, my understanding from other discussions is they're trying to get the lay of land for their engineering, it's a site survey of the property to go forward. This IGA unfortunately has got a lot of components to it, and it's an intergovernmental agreement, for those of you who don't know what that stands for. And it's going to take a long time. There's been a lot of discussion as to what those terms and conditions are, and it's my understanding that IDOT is simply looking to come out. We'll have to work out access agreements, we're gonna have to work out easements and all that, still has to be worked out. There's a lot to be done, but in the interim, they wanna be out there to be able to look at and do some of their site and field work.
Mr. Murmas?
The one other thing, we're not sending the letter off on behalf of the city without you guys seeing it. I'm just telling you this tonight because the timing of it, they want it before the next meeting, so you would all see it, but they just throw things on you, and I have no control over it, so.
Alderman Woods, you had your hand up.
When you say they're doing surveys or work, this is the engineering, exploration, soil samples, surveying, or physical work, start building the bridge?
Mr. Murmas?
They're drafting the template, and they're gonna send it to us, and that's gonna be outlined in it. Again, they just threw this on me today. I didn't have a lot of time with it. I want to give you some notice because they want it back before the next meeting,
So
so.
we don't know anything?
We know that it's
essentially.
coming.
Okay.
Alderman Lazara, you had your hand up again.
Jeff, basically, we really don't have any choice,
Mr. Murmas?
do we?
Well, they're gonna say, you don't have a choice, because if you don't sign it, then the whole thing's gonna get delayed. So
Yeah,
that's what they're gonna tell
that's-
you.
Okay.
Alderman Winger, you had your hand up, or?
I just want to add an additional item to the report when ready, when we're off this topic. An announcement, cleaner accounts.
Oh, okay. Mr. Murmas?
So that's all it for my report. As soon as I have more, I'll let you know, and you guys will see the letter, and we'll work on whatever language if we feel comfortable with it or not.
Alderman Wesley, did you have something else you had? Okay. And that concludes your report? You had something?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Cleaner Accounts Committee has set our next date for our Wooddale Green Fair, and it's Saturday, April 26th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and the new location is Georgetown Square.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, consent agenda. I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I make that motion.
Any questions? Roll call?
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Lazara?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
That passes. Now, I'll entertain a motion to approve the item on the agenda, item number 1, approval of purchase agreement with Morton Salt for up to an additional 400 tons of salt in the not-to-exceed amount of $25,976. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Alderman Sismarski, go ahead.
Well, we're not guaranteed this 400 tons, are we?
Mr. Murmas?
Correct.
Do we know, are they gonna when will they let us know what we can have?
Go, Mr. Murmas.
They already let us have 100 of the tons, which I already ordered, because it was under the monetary amount. We'll probably know more tomorrow on the other 3. Well, we'll only know more on the next 100, not on the remaining
Because
300.
they're only letting us buy 100 at a time,
And we
correct?
can't place an order of any more until we take the first 100, which we just got the last shipment of that. So we theoretically couldn't even order more until they delivered the first 100 tons.
Alderman Lazar?
If I may, I'd like to talk to Matt on our situation again as far as our salt. Where are we standing right now with,
Go ahead, Matt. Mr. York, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alderman Lazar. We are currently, we did take possession of the 100 tons of salt that was ordered at the beginning of this 400. We are currently probably at about 200 tons of salt in storage right now, which if we would use it the way that it's traditionally been used in the past, would be approximately 3 or 4, major storm events. Currently, by using it in the conservation mode that we have been in since the beginning of January, we are being able to elongate that out as long as possible by only using it on curves and hills and intersections. We are trying to make sure that this 200 tons that we know that we have possession of, if we call and say, can we get an extra 100 tons, and that doesn't come in until the 1st of March, we have this 200 tons, and we're still being able to utilize that. We know that the winter may end in April. Maybe later than that. And we all know that late March and April storms are usually high ice storms, and we'd like to keep as much salt on hand as possible to be able to utilize for those storm events.
Alderman Jacob, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, with Mr. York. I've been watching, not being a salt expert here, they've been showing on the news a lot that some of the communities are mixing it with like sand or different kind of chemicals to make it go farther. Is that an option down the road if we do run short?
Mr. York?
It is an option. Sand has a whole other issue of getting sand into our storm sewer system, which causes clogging, which causes the ability, flooding issues if those storm sewers aren't cleaned out properly. So we're trying to alleviate that as much as possible. If we do need to mix salt with sand, that can't happen. Mixing salt with sand, the salt really doesn't do anything to melt the snowpack or the ice at all. It's basically just there for traction. So, and like we've talked about in the past, having a little bit of snowpack underneath on the roadway tends to give a little bit more grip than black ice or icier substance. So that's why we've been continuing to not put as much salt down as well.
Do you have a follow-up? Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, they had also, one community was saying that they could put some beet juice, mix it in there, and the salt would last longer or stay on the road longer. Is that?
No,
Mr. York?
That's technically, beet juice will allow the salt to melt at a lower temperature, melt the ice at a lower temperature. It doesn't really elongate the use of the salt. And we do have the ability to spray the salt when it comes off the spinners. Salt needs a liquid to activate it, so if we do hit it with the liquid, it allows the salt to activate quicker than putting, if you've been outside in your driveway and you've thrown some salt on the driveway, you'll see that it doesn't really do anything until it starts to liquefy. And then once it liquefies, then it takes off. Using the beet juice allows the salt to activate immediately instead of getting on the roadway and then waiting for that car to roll over the top of it to start warming up that area and making that kind of that slurry, which allows the salt to melt the ice faster.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Roll call.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Lazara?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Wood?
Yes.
That passes. Next, committee chairman reports, planning and zoning, Alderman Woods.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one report and recommendation, CDC recommendation regarding 365 East Irving Park Road. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Roll call, please. Oh, wait, any questions? Sorry. Roll call.
Alderman Jacob?
No.
Alderman Lazara?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
No.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
No.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
No.
That fails.
That's the end of my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Public health and safety, Alderman Roy Wesley.
No report.
Thank you. Public works, Alderman Lazara.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Finance and administration, Alderman Sismarski.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Let our business know, we approval list of bills, February 6, 2014, Alderman Sismarski.
I have a list of bills for February 16, 2014, at $622,130. That is my motion.
Second.
Any questions? Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Mr. Mayor, I have 3 questions on a list of bills, if you
Okay.
don't mind. On page 3, this CDW Government 3 PTO PANs, I noticed that it's listed 4 times on the list of bills. Could you, someone tell me what that is?
Mr. Wilson, are you gonna take that one?
It's for 53,000,
Page 3?
page 3. Second one down.
Mr. Wilson, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, you also notice right below those 4, there's a third one that has that reference in there a little bit. Those are the laptops for the squad cars. And just the way it got invoiced out in 4 invoices of 3 apiece. There's a lot of density
so
on
we
those
didn't- we-
invoices.
Okay.
So, yeah, so, because each one has a different invoice number, we had to present them that way.
Okay.
so.
Mayor, could
Next
I-
one? Yes, go ahead.
On page 14,
14?
Midwest Monitoring
Brad, can you take that one, or we need somebody
for
else?
$300.
Midwest Meter? For the handheld
Yes.
repairs? Sure. The city has 2 different types of reading devices for the water meters. One unit's called the Trace unit, the other is the Orion units. The Trace units are significantly older and are actually in the process of being replaced. The city has a 3 or 4 year plan to replace all the Trace units for a number of reasons, one of which is failure of the equipment. And unfortunately, both of our handhelds went down at the same time about a month ago, and we had to send them out to get repaired through Midwest Meter, who's our supplier for the Badger meters.
So may I just do one
Yes,
follow-up?
go ahead.
So those are, it's the same piece of equipment?
It's
The
the same
meter-
piece of equipment, but there's two of them. We have 2 handhelds. We have a primary one and then a
but they-
backup, and they both went down at the same time.
Okay, so my question is, why could we not get in? It's unfortunate both of them went down at the same time. Why can't we not get in a cycle and say, this one's this old, we'll replace this one now, and then come back 2 more years down the line, we'll replace this one? Now,
Mr.
I mean, it's
Wilson.
minor money, but if we aren't doing our rotation on our equipment to replace it the way we should be,
Mr. Wilson?
that's foolish on us.
Sure, and I would have to check, and I'm not gonna presuppose that Mr. York would know, but the Trace units within the next year to 2 years are gonna be completely gone. And so, it's hoping, against hope that, they wouldn't break before we didn't use them anymore.
Okay.
So, try not to throw good money after bad, at that point, and, get them to the end of their life cycle.
Okay. I have
One more?
one more, then I'm
Go ahead.
done.
Continue.
The other one was
What page?
page 14 for $877 for mechanic,
Mead
What-
Electric,
yeah,
one?
Mead Electric. Who is that?
Mr. Wilson. Rewiring a streetlight.
Rewiring
Yeah.
streetlight.
I would have
Would-
to, defer, on that one. I'm not familiar with that one aside from the narrative.
Mr.
on
York,
the-
would you know that one? Rewiring a streetlight, 384 Benoris, or Chief, anybody? I mean, we can,
Look into that one for you if you'd like us to.
okay.
Yeah, I would like that before that's paid out. I'd like to get the answer on that because I thought Emmons and Nelson does ours streetlights, and all of a sudden this new company came up, and is that even our streetlight over there? Or?
Go ahead, Mr. York.
I have
Okay.
no explanation for that one, so we'd have
We
to
can
look
hold the
into that for you.
check. We can pass the bills and hold the
That's
check.
fine.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Brad? You'll make sure you pull that one. Any other questions? Alderman Woods?
Easy one, Brad. I was looking, we just paid out on the generator grant program again. How much money is in that fund? I didn't know it was still open, but is there money that people still can,
Mr.
do
Wilson.
we have an idea?
I don't have a number for me, but yes, the program is still open. Kind of tied it to the longevity of the agreement with First Energy for the discounted energy rates. So at a minimum until June of this year, there'll still be some monies coming through for that program.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Questions for, probably for,
What page?
15. National Seed, 50 pounds of ice melt. What is that salt for? I take it as for salt. And then on page 19, you have, 50 pounds, 10 bags of 50-pound sidewalk salt from Russo's.
Go ahead, Mr. York.
Yeah, well, the sidewalk salt, let me see.
Yep.
Excuse me, what was the first page on that, sir?
Page
Page
15.
15, the bottom it says National Seed. It says ice melt. And then on page 19, you have Russo's Power Equipment, 10 bags of 50 pounds.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. York.
Is that,
I was,
the question is?
yes, what was the question?
What kind of salt is that? I mean,
It's-
what is it used for?
It's the sidewalk salt that we use at our location at 720. We use it here at this location. We use it at the RTA lot. We use it at the treatment plant. It's basically just our bag salt that we would utilize instead of rock salt for sidewalks. So it's magnesium chloride salt.
Okay, one more
Go ahead.
question, one more question.
Does that take care of both of them, page 19 also, or the Russo one?
Yes, the Russo's one was that was a purchase made by the water department, for utilization at their location, probably at the commercial site. And then the large one was a skid purchase that we did that we utilize at our plant, or our position at 720, and also at this location.
Go ahead, follow.
Could we, as you know, Matt, probably, that when you buy a skid, you get a cheaper price.
Yes, sir.
Can't we just share between Public Works and the water department?
Yes, and that's something that we're working on right now, is looking at our purchasing policies and procedures and making sure that things like this don't happen. Having 3 separate locations sometimes slips through the cracks, but right now we're working on some procedures to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, a motion, a second. And Brad, you're going to hold the one check. Roll call.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Lazara?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
That passes. Next, we do need executive session to review the official minutes, land acquisition, collective bargaining, and personnel. Need a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.